Your childhood didn't just wound you, it programmed you. It wired your brain to destroy every future relationship before it even begins. And the worst part? Everyone around you, your therapist, your friends, your partner, they're telling you it's your fault. They call it your issue, your baggage, your emotional walls. But none of them are telling you the full truth. The truth is this: you don't have trust issues. You have survival instincts. And the same people who created them are now the ones blaming you for how you turned out. There's a letter, a raw, honest, brutal letter, 15 pages long, written by Franz Kafka to his father. It was never sent, but buried in those words is a truth that explains why love feels like danger to you, why connection feels impossible, why you keep pushing people away, even when all you want is to be held. Kafka's letter was a confession, not just about pain, but about programming, about how a parent's love, or lack of it, can shape your entire ability to trust. Imagine being a child, just 6 years old. Everything in the world is unfamiliar, overwhelming. You don't know much, but you know this: your parent is supposed to be your safe place. But for Kafka, that parent was Hermann Kafka, a man who didn't beat him, didn't abandon him, didn't even yell all that much. But somehow, Franz still grew up terrified of him. Why? Because every dinner table felt like a trial. Every question was a trap. Every conversation had a subtle undercurrent of, "You're not good enough." Kafka described it perfectly. He said, "You asked me why I'm afraid of you. And, as usual, I couldn't answer, because I was too afraid to even speak." That's the thing about childhood trauma. It's not always obvious. There's no dramatic music playing in the background. Sometimes the most painful wounds are invisible. There's no screaming, no chaos. Just a slow, quiet erosion of your sense of safety. Kafka's father looked like a good man on paper. He provided, he showed up, he ran a business. But inside their home, he was cold, distant, unpredictable. One day warm, the next day withdrawn. One moment proud, the next cruel. And Franz, just a little boy, never knew which version he'd get. And that's exactly how trust dies. Not in explosions, but in silence, in inconsistency, in growing up feeling like love is conditional, like your emotions are too much, like your existence is always one step away from being too inconvenient. Picture this: you're 7. You come home from school crying because someone bullied you. You run to your mom, hoping for comfort. Instead, she snaps, "Stop crying. No one cares. Toughen up." You flinch, you freeze. You try to hide your tears, but it doesn't end there. That night, she softens. She hugs you. "I'm sorry, Mommy was stressed. You know I love you, right?" And you believe her, until the next time it happens again. And again, and again. That's the cycle. That's what trains your brain to associate love with confusion, with punishment, with danger. You stop showing emotion. You start hiding pain. Because needing comfort makes people angry. Because every time you cry, someone you love disappears into rage. And then you grow up. Someone asks, "Are you okay?" And every cell in your body panics. Because to you, being vulnerable doesn't feel safe. It feels like a setup. Or maybe it looked like this. You're 8 years old. Your dad promises he'll pick you up after school. You wait. Everyone else goes home. The sun starts to set. The janitor checks on you. Hours later, your dad shows up, drunk, angry, slurring. He yells at you, says it's your fault, says he was busy with real problems, grabs your arm so hard it leaves bruises, drives like a maniac. You're crying. He screams, "You're the reason I drink," then lies about the whole thing when Mom asks what happened. And when you try to tell the truth, he gives you that look. The look that means, "Say one more word and I'll make you regret it." That's when your brain locks in the lesson. Promises are lies. Love comes with threats. Telling the truth gets you hurt. The people who are supposed to protect you, they won't. And no one will believe you anyway. So you stay quiet. You carry the burden. You become the easy child, the strong one, the one who doesn't make a fuss. But inside, trust is gone. Safety is gone. And then you hit adulthood, and suddenly you're in a relationship, and every promise makes your skin crawl. Every compliment feels suspicious. Every I love you triggers a mental countdown. When will they leave? When will they turn? Because in your world, love was never unconditional. Love always came with a price. You start scanning for threats in everything. Your brain becomes a radar, tuned not to affection, but to danger. Did they pause too long before replying? Did their tone shift slightly? Did they cancel plans last minute? These tiny signals feel massive to you because your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a delay in a text and emotional abandonment. It learned long ago that any shift in tone could mean an explosion is coming. That's why, even when someone is kind to you, you feel uneasy. You don't relax, you analyze, you brace for impact, because you've been trained to expect the worst. This is how your trust issues were born. Not from drama, not from weakness, but from survival. You stopped trusting because trusting got you hurt. You learned to protect yourself because no one else did. You learned to stay quiet, expect little, and never, ever let your guard down. And that learning didn't just stay in your mind. It embedded into your body. Your nervous system became your defense system. Your emotional instincts were reprogrammed for threat detection, not love. So, now when someone says, "You can trust me," your brain doesn't hear comfort. It hears warning sirens. It responds with suspicion, caution, hesitation. You start doing things to test people. Maybe you pick a fight. Maybe you emotionally pull away. Maybe you become overly accommodating, bending yourself into someone else's version of perfect, just to keep them around. And all of it comes from one deep-rooted belief. If they really knew me, if they saw how broken I am, they'd leave too. This is why relationships feel exhausting, why love feels like a risk you can't afford to take, why you sabotage closeness without meaning to. And people around you don't understand. They think you're distant, or cold, or dramatic. But they don't know what it feels like to grow up in a world where love meant danger, where connection was a gamble, where you had to earn safety by being useful, quiet, perfect. And when you finally open up, when you finally get close to someone, it doesn't feel like relief. It feels like panic. Your chest tightens. Your stomach knots. You're not excited, you're terrified. Not because you don't want love, but because your body remembers what love used to cost. That's not dysfunction. That's a trauma response. The worst part? That voice in your head. The one that tells you you're too much, that you're unlovable, that you shouldn't need anything. It's not even your voice. It was given to you, embedded into you before you had a choice, before you could reject it. It sounds like you now, but it started as someone else's voice. Someone who taught you that your needs were dangerous, your emotions were wrong, your love was a burden. Kafka knew this. He spent his entire life trying to make sense of it. He wrote, "My writing was all about you. All I did there was to bemoan what I could not bemoan upon your breast." His stories weren't just fiction, they were therapy. They were his way of bleeding out the pain he couldn't express directly. Every metaphor about punishment, guilt, alienation, it was all rooted in the voice of a father who made love feel like a courtroom. You carry that same burden. The voice you think is your inner critic is often just your parents' tone, recycled, refined, internalized. It tells you to stay small. It punishes you for needing anything. And worst of all, it convinces you that you're the problem, that if you were different, better, quieter, easier, then love would stay. But you're not the problem. Your nervous system isn't broken. It's just trying to protect you. It's doing the exact thing it was trained to do: survive. The patterns that once kept you safe are now keeping you isolated. But they served a purpose. And the fact that you're still here, still capable of love, still reaching for healing, that's proof that you survived something most people will never understand. But survival isn't the end of your story. Survival is just the beginning. Healing starts when you recognize the patterns, not just mentally, but viscerally. When you understand that the tension in your body, the way you pull away from closeness, the way your chest tightens when someone gets too kind, it's not weakness, it's memory. Your body remembers what your mind had to bury to cope. And the process of healing is not about erasing that memory. It's about teaching your body a new one, a safer one where love doesn't mean danger, where trust doesn't mean exposure, where connection doesn't mean pain. And that starts small, not with grand declarations, but with tiny acts of self-trust. Noticing when you feel unsafe in a safe situation. Listening to that discomfort without judging it. Asking yourself gently, what part of me feels threatened right now? You learn to become curious instead of critical. You learn to slow down, breathe through the panic, and remind yourself that this moment is different, that this person is not your parent, that this relationship doesn't have to be a battlefield. This is what therapists call earned security. It's not something you're born with. It's something you create over time, by slowly rebuilding what was broken. You start by earning your own trust. You keep your promises to yourself, even the small ones. You listen when your body says no. You stop forcing yourself into situations that feel unsafe just to be normal. And from that foundation, you begin letting others in. Not everyone, not recklessly, but selectively, wisely. You learn to filter people not by how much they want you, but by how safe you feel around them. Healing isn't linear. You'll have days when you feel wide open, ready to love, ready to be loved, and you'll have days when you shut down completely. Both are okay. Progress doesn't mean constant openness, it means honesty. It means knowing when you're overwhelmed and honoring it instead of pushing through. It means letting people earn access to your vulnerability instead of handing it out like an apology. Kafka never sent his letter, but its words have reached millions because he gave language to something so many of us feel but can't explain. The pain of needing love from someone who didn't know how to give it. That pain doesn't go away just because you're grown. It lingers, it shapes you, but it doesn't have to define you. You are not doomed to repeat what was done to you. You're allowed to rewrite the script. You're allowed to learn a new way of relating, one built on safety, on awareness, on truth. You're allowed to say, I struggle with trust, but I'm learning. You're allowed to be a work in progress. You're allowed to heal slowly, carefully, on your terms. Your trust issues aren't flaws, they're adaptations. And the very fact that you're aware of them means something inside you is already shifting. You're not broken, you're self-aware. You're not cold, you're cautious. And that caution, it came from pain that was never your fault. But healing, that's your power now. So, if you saw yourself in Kafka's words, if you felt like someone finally described what you've been carrying for years, then let this be your beginning, not the end. You don't have to stay stuck in the loop of hurt. You can step out. You can choose differently. You can become someone who learns to trust again. Not blindly, but bravely. Because the truth is, you never lacked the capacity for love. You just lacked the safety to express it. And now you get to build that safety. First in yourself, then with others who prove they're worthy of it. If this spoke to something deep in you, if it hit a nerve that's been quiet for too long, then you're not alone. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's one thing about trust that you're working through? Let's talk about it. No judgment, just truth. And if this helped you start making sense of your story, subscribe for more content that cuts past the surface and speaks to the raw, real stuff we're all trying to navigate. Because healing isn't something you do alone. It's something we do together, slowly, honestly, humanly. Your healing starts with one truth. You are not the problem. You never were.